The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. The X Zone is a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, Simul TV, Simul Radio, TalkStream Live, and on iHeartRadio. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV, and to find out about the programming we have available for you 24/7, 365 on the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Exonation, my guest this hour is Fred Fogarty, and we're talking to Fred from Scotland. Fred's website is www.cityofthedeadtours.com, and that'll give you a basic idea of what this hour is going to be all about. Now, his bio is he's a colorful freak, tour guide, storyteller, general dogsbody, and in charge of guide training. He's been working with City of the Dead Tours for over a decade. City of Dead Tours has been named Britain's Best Ghost Walk by Scare.com, Yahoo Travel, and Virgin Media, Best Ghost Tour by Scare Tours, and recommended by Lonely Planet as Edinburgh's Best Ghost Tour. But Fred didn't know any of this until he looked it up in the interwebs. Fred has been taking people into Coventry's Prison and Black Mausoleums in Greyfriars Graveyard, home of the infamous Mackenzie Poltergeist, and in the South Bridge Vaults, Edinburgh's underground city, the most concentrated areas of sightings in a city already fabled for its hauntings. It's his job to stay calm when people finish tours with, now listen to this, Exonation, I'm not making this up, scratches, bite marks, bruises, welts, vomit, or end up passing out. Now, you think you were at the WWF or participating in a brawl, but this is on a ghost tour. And, it's also his job at the end to reassure when asked, so how long does this last for? Joining me now from Edinburgh, Scotland, is our guest this hour, the one and only colorful storyteller himself, Fred Fogarty. And Fred, welcome to the X Zone.
Hi, Rob. Thanks very much for the kind welcome.
Have you ever spoken to somebody and you think you've spoken to them before?
Indeed, that happens way more frequently than you think it ought to, yes.
Is it coincidence, deja vu, or something else? We'll just leave that to the realm of possibilities, but nice having you with us here in the X Zone. City of the Dead Tours, tell us a little bit about the tours and the city and the dead, and is Edinburgh really that haunted?
Edinburgh is extraordinary. It really is an extraordinary city. It is ancient. It's gorgeous, Rob. The architecture is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Even just looking at a few pictures should reassure you of this. And curiously enough, it turns out there is a community of ghost tours across the world. And just recently, in the last couple of weeks, they've posted a thing of, hey, how would you feel if another company came and set up alongside you? Which I find very interesting, because Edinburgh has so much going on. And it's a small city, right? It's a capital city, the capital of Scotland.
Yes.
A population that surely at this point can't be much more, if even 500,000 people, 500,000.
Wow.
Not big for a capital city. And yet there are 3 major ghost tour companies running, plus an additional, let's say 3 not major ones, and an extra 2 or 3 that start up every year during the festival. That is how much is going on in this tiny city. For a tiny city of about 500,000, it supports maybe like a minimum of 8 tour companies operating for these random locations. It's a fascinating place.
How did you get started in the paranormal and in the tour business?
That is an excellent question. I started off with zero interest in the paranormal. I have to confess to you, Rob. I'm not gonna lie to you. It just wasn't even on my radar. I gave up history when I was 14 because the way that we teach, or at least taught, history in the UK was, here's a battle, here's a king, here's the result. This is what's roughly going on. It was of zero interest to me. But when I started working for this company, the City of the Dead tours, the people working there are such exceptional storytellers. So I'm assuming, given your line of work, you've been in the presence of some exceptional storytellers, people who can just capture your imagination. And there's something so primal inside that just the experience of being in these people, of listening to these stories, just transports you to another world, another place.
Exactly.
So these people, not only were they exquisite storytellers, they also had the ability to make history relevant. And that's not something that I had experienced in forever, right? It was an extraordinary experience. Now, all of a sudden, the history of these people living 200 to 400 years ago starts to become relevant. What they experience, how they view the world, what kind of things they get up to, what are their pastimes, what do they eat, how do they exist, like what are their neighbors like, all these stuff that we kind of gloss over in our daily experience. And yet these, for me at least anyways, Rob, these are the pieces that link us to the past and to the lessons that we can learn from it as well.
One thing I've noticed on the many tours that I've taken, as well as the different ghost tour guides, is that they make the tour. There are some that are so involved, they capture the essence of the moment, as well as their magnificent way of telling stories, that they themselves make the tour. And I can just tell by talking to you these last few minutes, you must give one heck of a tour.
Yes, sir. That's what I've spent a long time endeavoring to provide people. And a large portion of that is my desire to bring people back, as it were. Like this experience of having given, like a lot of people choose to deliver tours as a fact delivery system.
Yes.
And for me, it's not about that. It's about re-engaging with the past, and connecting with these people, because that's where it is. I could tell you facts all day long, and you would just either absorb them or not, and it wouldn't matter so much. There's no connection. There's no I have a hard way of describing this beyond that. I think there's no connection to it, and yet when you bring in these other experiences, when you begin to appreciate what it's like to live as a person in Edinburgh. And these days, the city is gorgeous, right? If you look around, if you look at the street view on Google Maps or something, the city is, I think, objectively beautiful. Right?
Would you say...
And yet it wasn't... Oh, sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, would you say that not only are you ghost tour guides, but you're also historians, and you're definitely ambassadors to the city of Edinburgh?
I hadn't thought of it that way before, Rob. And I think you're probably accurate in this. Yeah, surely, yes.
Why is there so much paranormal activity when it comes to ghosts in Edinburgh? Is it the rich history that it's had for hundreds of years?
That is an excellent question. For a lot of this, I'm probably going to be kind of vague in the answers, because what I really wish to do is to demonstrate that this isn't just fiction. This is really what's going on for people. What you attribute it to, that is a matter of belief. And that is okay. I am in favor of all the belief systems you care to have.
Sure.
That is fine. Right? But these things are fascinating. I have a suspicion that it is because we had so many people squeezed into a tiny space.
Right.
We've got all these beautiful old buildings that are still there. And I don't think that separates it apart from some of these gorgeous locations around the rest of Europe with the most wonderful histories. So what specifically sets it apart? I'm not sure.
All right, stand by. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to think this over because I've got to take a break. Exonation, our guest is Fred Fogarty, and he is with cityofthedeadtours.com in Edinburgh, Scotland, and his personal website as a hypnotherapist is mindspaodyssey.com. Fred and I will return as we talk about ghost hauntings and things that go bump in the capital of Scotland, Edinburgh. My name is Rob McConnell. This is The X-Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. We'll be back after this break. Don't go away. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone broadcast network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
You have heard of the X-Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
We live in rapidly shifting times of extreme volatility and uncertainty. Such profound change brings a unique opportunity for the evolution of consciousness. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, host of Mission Evolution Radio Show, a program that explores the latest scientific developments and deepening spiritual truths supporting human evolution. Join me on xzbn.net, where I interview leading experts in science, physics, medicine, spirituality, and more. By applying divergent viewpoints to leading-edge topics, we uncover expansive and evolutionary truth to assist you on your path to enlightenment. More information and past episodes are available at missionevolution.org.
Welcome back, everyone. Fred Fogarty is our special guest this hour. He is with City of the Dead Tours in Edinburgh, Scotland. Their website is www.cityofthedeadtours.com. And if someone had told Fred 30 years ago that there was a job where he could make adults and children cry in fear and with laughter simultaneously, I don't think that anyone, especially Fred, would have believed it. And Fred, I must ask you, the last there's a sentence in the bio that we have for you that says it's his job to stay calm when people finish the tours with scratches, bite marks, bruises, welts, vomit, or end up passing out. It's also his job to make up reassuring answers when asked. So how long does this last for? Let me see here. Scratches, bites, bruises, welts, vomit, passing out. Where do you take these people?
They're nearby to recover.
Is that why your email address is medic1?
No, sir.
Oh, okay.
If you want the full story on that, have you got 3 minutes for that?
Oh, sure.
Sure. So back, let's say 15 years ago, I was a break dancer, a b-boy.
Oh, okay.
And they're all the way through the history of breakdancing and graffiti, DJing, things like this. For people to demonstrate they're the first of their kind, the first in their style, they will put in the name, the moniker 1 along with their name to demonstrate they're the first.
Yeah.
So KRS 1, Po 1 Tells 1, a whole bunch of other people with this. Mm-hmm. And the name of the accident and emergency department that I frequented at the time was Medic 1. And that seemed just a perfect example of what it was like in my life at the time.
Well, my goodness. Okay. So where do you take these people where they actually suffer physical abuse knowing that it's going to happen or accepting it?
Sure. So that's an interesting conundrum, isn't it, Rob?
Yeah.
When people turn up to a ghost tour, they're told what they assume to be the marketing. Right? They're told, hey, you come on this tour, as it says on our sign, at your own volition. What does it say?
Own risk.
These tours can cause genuine mental distress.
Whoa.
You come on it at your own risk. And that's what happens.
Really?
Rob, that's what happens. And we're remarkably careful about the ideas that we introduce. Mm-hmm. I've had young, fit, healthy, like sports males collapse on the ground unconscious before we even make it to the tomb itself. We have people vomiting and worse. It's an extraordinary notion. I don't think people fully appreciate what they're letting themselves in for. The good news is that it happens infrequently, shall we say, irregularly. So it is. So we can still get away with having a license to do so, which is good news. It's an extraordinary notion. We do our best to take care of them. The vast majority of things are resolved very quickly, right? So things like unconscious and the convulsions and things like this, they all tend to be over within I'd say somewhere between 30 seconds and 20 minutes, very rapidly. And as an aside, I've had a very weird moment in my formative years of doing this where someone on my tour collapsed inside of a tomb, split their head open against the stony chips on the floor. And we called an ambulance. And we had to. The guy was bleeding profusely from his head. And the head is prone to gushing. As anyone who's had a head injury will know or seen one.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be grave. Yeah. But as we left this portion of the graveyard, if you can imagine a pristine white ambulance sitting right at the back of an ancient graveyard dating back to the early 17th century in an old, beautiful location, very atmospheric. As we left the Covenanters prison,
right,
6 people or so, I heard them talking to each other saying, isn't it amazing the lengths these guys would go to get us to believe in this thing?
Oh my gosh.
Rob, I don't know what kind of budget people think we're working with. But the ambulance and medical staff is definitely not on that budget, right? And it's extraordinary. So these things really do happen. They tend to resolve themselves quickly. Things like the bites, the burns, bruises, welts, scratches, things like this, they do happen. They're the most common things that happen, and they tend to resolve, I'd say, from 30 minutes to 3 days. Tends to be common.
Who is doing this? Do you know the name of the ghost or the identity of the ghost or the spirit?
Sure.
That actually does these?
There's two questions, I think, implicit in this, Rob. One of them is, we call this phenomenon in the graveyard the Mackenzie Poltergeist.
Okay.
Right. Now, some people believe that it is because it is the avenging spirit of George Mackenzie. Right, dating back to the mid-1600s, early 1700s, when he was eventually interred in the graveyard nearby. He's alleged to have taken 1,200 dissenters into this nearby area of the graveyard, forced them to lie face down through 5 brutal Scottish months. Right, at the moment, we are experiencing one of the finest summers we've had for a very long time, which means about 2 weeks of sun. Mm-hmm. This is uncommon, really, really uncommon, right? Outside in Scotland is not something that you'd wish for people, wearing remarkably little. And for 5 months, and they gave them as much food and water as was required to really drag out their suffering over these 5 months, to leave them. So essentially the sounds of their suffering fill up our beautiful old town, where the rest of us slept, ate, worked, to teach us a lesson and what it was, or rather what was what the repercussions were of rebelling, of not towing the line, of not adhering to the official policy. So where are we with this one here? So this is the guy. It's his tomb, George Mackenzie, the king's right-hand man, the king's advocate, right? The late 1600s. He is alleged to have walked these people in. It's inside of his tomb that the first reports reached the church from. Right, so back in 1998, it's desecrated and broken into and attacked by a homeless man. And it's around this point that just weird, inexplicable stuff starts happening.
What kind of stuff?
Sorry, carry on.
What kind of stuff?
So the stories go that it is a lady who is physically struck in the head by an icy cold fist of air. Wow. And she tumbles down the steps and thinks, what is going on here? This is an example of the early reports that make it to the church itself. Mm-hmm. And this is 1998, the year before our tours even begin. Over the time, these reports build up and move along through into this location just next door, this what is known as the Covenanters prison. Now, these days, it's an area of the graveyard, the last portion of the graveyard or of land gifted to the graveyard in the early gifted to the kirk, the church, in the early 1700s for burial.
Right.
Prior to that, it had been a really early example of a concentration camp.
Oh, gosh.
Right. So these two areas are intimately and inextricably linked, both by proximity and also by history as well.
With a graveyard being consecrated or blessed, how could this paranormal activity occur?
That's a good question. That's a good question, Rob. I find a really interesting theory mentioned to me by one of my colleagues, which is that by and large, graveyards are not haunted. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because nobody goes to a graveyard to die.
Right.
Yeah, everybody goes to a graveyard when they're already dead.
Yeah.
And yet, in this case, we had 1,200 dissenters, people who had committed treason, tied up in this portion that later became part of the graveyard. These people were incarcerated there. The story goes that if they moved or complained, they were taken out, executed by musket. They tried to escape, they were shot. When finally they were permitted to leave, or rather when finally the incarceration period was done, they set sail in 2 ships as slaves for the Americas. Both ships hit the rocks in the Orkney Isles, and no matter which version of the story that you hear about this, not a single one of them is happy or pleasant, and everybody on behalf of those incarcerated, these Covenanters, they all die. So it's a place of incredibly unhappy history in that location itself. The graveyard itself, Greyfriars, is an extraordinary location, long known as a thin place, which I don't know if it's specifically a Scottish term, but it is. You can guess, right? It's a place where the veil between this world and the next, or the other, is thin. Right?
All right, Fred, we're going to have to take. Fred, we're going to have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Please stand by. Exonation Fred Fogarty is our special guest. He is with City of the Dead Tours, and their website is www.cityofthedeadtours.com, and Fred is in Edinburgh, Scotland. And we'll both be back on the other side of this break as we continue this haunting story of Scotland's capital and City of the Dead Tours. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. Don't go away.
From our broadcast studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, to the world and beyond, you're watching the X-Zone Broadcast Network. www.xzbn.net.
AVS Media Den.
You have heard of the X-Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. storyteller.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Fred Fogarty is our special guest of this hour. He is with City of the Dead Tours in Edinburgh, Scotland. His website is www.cityofthedeadtours.com, and his personal website as a hypnotherapist is mindspaodyssey.com. Fred, we were talking about the Mackenzie Poltergeist and the horrific things that happened there. Yes,
sir.
Has anyone ever seen a full-bodied apparition there?
Yes, they have. They have indeed, unquestionably. And this ties in with, I think, this is perhaps my weirdest experience. I've had many weird experiences in this location, Rob. And I think this one probably tops them all.
Okay.
I was giving a tour a couple of years ago, and somebody on the tour was particularly, should we say, apprehensive. All the way through, she had been kind of concerned, nervous, and as we reach this area of the graveyard, the Covenanters' prison, and go through the gates, these old ancient gates, it's quite a dramatic entry point. It's very distinct. She starts to shake like a leaf. Right? The nervousness within her is amped up dramatically. We have a first aider who hangs around just to make sure that people are looked after. So if something happens, and when something happens inside of these locations, we know that we can get them looked after immediately by somebody trained, and we can carry on with the tour, look after the rest of the tour group. And as we're standing there outside of this one specific tomb, which is very much where the majority of this experience has been happening, this phenomenon, this Mackenzie Poltergeist, for the last 18 odd years now. Right? She points up, hand shaking, nervous in voice, and says, "Who's that?" And I look up and I say, "It's all right. I'm guessing you mean the first aider. He's up there to look after people. Don't sweat it." She says, "No, not him. That." And she points up around two mausoleums, two tombs down from the gates. I don't see anything. I just dismiss it as a curious thing that's going on, because people see and experience all sorts of the most bizarre stuff, right? It's not my job to judge. It's just my job to relay, right? To guide.
Right. Yeah.
So weird stuff goes on for the tour. We think that's the end of it. At the end of it, I quiz her and find out from her what her experience has been. As she's looked up about two tombs in on the left-hand side, she's seen what I guess you and I would know as a typical spectral presence. So like people height, let's say close to 6 foot or so, white, ghostly, ethereal, but coal black eyes staring straight through her, all the way down from maybe like let's say 60 feet away or so.
Wow.
And I think this is interesting. What is more interesting is that what I later discovered when returning to our little shop at the gates of the graveyard is that as my colleague had gone up, he'd had a friend with him from Hawaii, nice car, who had intended to experience things from his perspective as a first aider. And as she had gone to leave the shop, she had looked up, seen Mackenzie's tomb itself, seen this spectral figure. She describes these two people, bear in mind, Rob, they do not know each other. They have never discussed this. They've never met. They don't know to this day that each other exists. She looks up at Mackenzie's tomb. She sees what she describes as this spectral figure, white, coal black eyes staring right through her, watches it take a left, pass up the path, and take another left into the prison itself. And this all happens moments before the other girl starts freaking out and pointing to something that I can't see, but clearly she can, right? And I just find it fascinating that these two people can share an experience that is so locked together in time. The way they describe things is fascinating. I don't have a strong explanation for it other than something really weird is going on.
Unbelievable. How many people are there in a typical tour that you guide?
It varies enormously. I suspect from Canada, you can appreciate that the seasons swing quite a bit.
Yes.
Yes, indeed, sir. So Edinburgh is not so dissimilar in this. We lack the intense cold that you get, but it never really gets truly warm. So for winter, it is not overly accommodating. We're comfortable here. During the winter, it's a couple. By the time it reaches the summer, July in particular, we're looking at a maximum of 35 people per tour.
Wow, and how many tours do you operate per night?
5.
My goodness.
5.
Why do you think so many people have such a keen interest in the paranormal?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, isn't it?
Yeah.
We do our best to accommodate everybody. So not everybody who comes on our tours is looking for a paranormal experience. These two locations we go to, the South Bridge Vaults and the Graveyard, the Covenanters Prison and Black Mausoleum, they play a fascinating piece in our history. They are genuine historic locations for us. In the case of the vaults, going back to 1785 is when construction began, 1788 when it was completed. In the case of the Covenanters Prison, it dates back to the 1600s.
Wow.
So the way you get to experience them is naturally through a ghost tour. Some people think of it as some entertainment. Some people are curious about the history. Some people are, they are firm believers. And some people don't mind. They're just in it as part of exploring a phenomenon that happens in their own city.
What do you find most interesting about the tours?
People is the answer, Rob. People, absolutely. I mean, these phenomena are fascinating, right? For me, there's no doubt that there is something that is going on.
Right.
What you can attribute, there's no way we could do this for 18 odd years or so, 19 years, for that not to be the case. It's extraordinary. The frequency, the consistency, and just the drama that goes with it as well. It's fascinating. And yet for me, until someone comes up with a real strong piece of research and science to support it, I don't know what it's about. All I know is that weird stuff happens. We have various theories, of course, and every believer, every person, every scientist, every what they call them, the groups that come by to do invigilation or whatever. Always people coming along. They all have their ideas as to what's going on. But nobody has yet produced a really compelling body of work to tell me what is actually happening. For me, what is genuinely interesting is the hardware that we use to experience this, the people that come along. I'll give you an easy example.
Okay.
If you want a 1, 2, 3 step as to how to knock yourself out, right? We have it in black and white in our tour reports. It's extraordinary.
Wow. How has all this that you've witnessed over the years working with City of the Dead tours changed your beliefs?
So originally I was like, it's not even like I was skeptical. It just didn't even feature on my radar, right? It just wasn't a part of my reality. There's been so much weird stuff going on. My very first tour, going through this specific tomb, 9 of us, 8 customers, myself. I'm standing there thinking, there's something about this tomb, right? It just seems to absorb the light. It's dark. It just feels. In fact, I don't even know how to describe it to you, Rob. You just got to be there to experience it. There's something special about it. I'm feeling uncomfortable. The moment I set foot inside this tomb, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Everybody else is fanned out in front of me, and I sit all sort of semicircle. The person on the left, she is hopping from foot to foot, clearly uncomfortable. I ask her what's going on. She says, I do not feel comfortable right now. It is cold. It is nasty. I don't feel safe. I don't know what's going on, but I do not want to be here anymore. And the person next to her says, yes, that is me as well. That's what I'm getting. And by consensus, the 9 of us leave that location only 2 minutes in. We don't do any of the stories. We don't do the scary stuff. We just get out. And that sensation follows us all the way to the gates of the graveyard itself, which is truly unusual.
Fred, stand by, my friend. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. I want to thank you ever so much for getting up at, what time is it in Scotland? I believe you're 6 hours ahead of us. So it's
so it's 1:45 right now, 1:45 in the morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. It is indeed a great pleasure. And
you're very welcome. It's a pleasure.
You are truly an ambassador, not only for City of the Dead Tours, but for the city of Edinburgh and for the country of Scotland. Exo Nation, I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as Fred and I wrap up this hour in the Exo talking about City of the Dead Tours in Edinburgh, Scotland. Once again, their website is www.cityofthedeadtours.com, and Fred's personal website as a hypnotherapist is mindspaodyssey.com. This is the Exo, and I am Rob McConnell. And we're coming to you live and around the world from our broadcast center in beautiful Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Ghost hauntings, things that go bump in the night. Much more when we return after this break.
Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
The new nonfiction book, Razor of Madness, is similar to cult movies like Clockwork Orange, Dragon's Tattoo, or The Other Side of Hell. Wayne Morin Jr. and Thomas Lee Howe will expose widespread and systematic deficiencies in this thought-provoking tell-all novel. Mind control rages among scholars in law schools. Human rights are ignored while thought reform and mental manipulation are accepted practices used as behavior modification. Dr. Louis Jolyon West comes to mind. Media and public scrutiny shows that United States mental hospitals are in fact destructive murder industries. Razor of Madness expose novel details this epidemic through an in-depth professional and personal investigation. For decades, there has been a revolving door policy that still releases killers and pedophiles back into society. The maestro of mind control continues to haunt America to this very day. Razor of Madness is available in paperback or as a downloadable ebook at Amazon.com.
The concept of a new age has been around since the late 19th century, yet much of its original meaning has been lost. What exactly is the new age? Is it a religion, a collection of obscure esoteric practices, a series of doomsday predictions, or an astrological event? The New Age Chronicles is a unique complementary publication bringing reason and grounded information to separate fact from fiction. Chock full of valuable information to support you as we make the monumental shift into the new era. You won't want to miss a single innovative issue. The New Age Chronicles newspaper is coming soon to www.newagechronicles.com.
Welcome back, everyone. We're talking to Fred Fogarty. He is a guide with City of the Dead Tours in Edinburgh, Scotland. Their website is www.cityofthedeadtours.com. How much does the power of belief play in the experiences that people may have or may not have on a tour? Because I'm sure as a professional tour guide and storyteller, you can actually orchestrate what happens next in the person's mind, because a tour guide or a storyteller actually plays to the theater of the mind. So how much of what you do, what you say, how you say it, actually plays into the belief that the person who is the believer is anticipating something to happen, which may or may not happen?
Those are good points, Rob. Absolutely. So the answer is it can play both a very large part and none at all.
Okay.
And let me give you an example to perhaps explain this. For example, this fellow that I referred to earlier, who collapsed inside of the Covenanters prison itself. I had not yet got around to describing what was likely to happen inside of there.
Wow.
And yet he experienced something that caused him to keel over unconscious. No drink, no drugs, just walked in through the gates, and 6 foot of him, 6'2" or so, just went straight over onto the ground. Right? So in that respect, I did not have to lay any foundations. I didn't have to offer anything, suggest anything. Something happened for this guy. Right? And what it is, I don't know. And I'm not sure if even he knows to this day. And also, it's very much true. So, for example, I have seen investigations. That's what I'm looking for earlier. Thank you. Right. I've seen investigations going through with people who are essentially just using, what's the word I'm looking for here? Layman. That's the word. Layman hypnosis. Just offering suggestions to people. Hey, so if you can, if you're there, let somebody's hand start to rise. That right hand is rising higher and higher. Right. This is classic hypnotic pattern.
It is, yeah.
So it's very much true, because we're still dealing with humans. No matter what happens inside of this location, we're still dealing with humans. What we say can impact what happens. Now, I have for many years now worked on cleaning up my language to make sure that I am not placing ideas in people's heads prematurely. Okay? So by the time they go in there and something happens to them, I want to know, is this genuinely what's happening for them, or is it me? So that, I hope, will give you an idea as to the fact that we do our best to tidy up the language enough to make sure that what happens is genuinely what happens for somebody else without our prompting, and also the very nature of storytelling and indeed the skill of it, the joy of it, what makes it effective and calls to us. These are the things that we rely on to make the tours consistently enjoyable, captivating, and to bring the history of these locations to life.
Are you ever afraid of bringing something home? And I'm not talking about anyone living, but a spirit with you, a ghost with you, that something might attach itself to you?
It's an occupational hazard, Rob. It's an occupational hazard. For a very long time after we started doing the tours, it was a recognized phenomenon for us as tour guides as well as our customers, that every now and again something would come home with us. Light bulbs would pop, things would get hot. We wake up in the middle of the night with weird, just an uncomfortable sensation we couldn't shake.
Right.
There's definitely the case to be made that we brought something home with us. Hasn't been so intense in the last couple of years, and it may be the case that it's biding its time. I don't know. I really don't know. But it's just an occupational hazard. Like if you go to work as a doctor, you might get ill.
Sure.
Right?
You go to work as a policeman, you might get shot.
Yes, sir.
I understand that fully. When you're guiding your people through your tours, do you dress in any special manner? Do you wear a costume? Do you wear a top hat? Do you carry a candle in a one of the walking candle holders?
These all sound very grand. It sounds quite lovely as an allusion to paint. We turn up in all black with a long black leather coat to cover us. I think part of that is that it's very much our uniform for working in the way that you might wear any other kind of uniform going to your work, and it looks the part. It really does. When you see us leading the tours around, and in particular going through these locations, it fits. It's really nice. Less so in the summer months because it gets really hot.
I would imagine so.
That only happens once in a blue moon. So, and yet, some of my colleagues have this peculiar belief that this coat, this layer, this skin next to us, acts as an anti-static shield to help deflect some of the activity or whatever this thing is.
Could be.
And these are the same people getting locked in. These are the same people getting strangled by their scarves inexplicably. These are the same people experiencing weird sensations, cold spots, hot spots.
Right.
So I'm not sure it really works.
Is it possible that there isn't as much activity going home with you and the other tour guides because the ghosts, the apparition, the specters may be getting used to you?
There's a case to be made for that, really.
Yeah,
there is a case to be made for that. I would say that's possibly less likely to be accurate, given that although staff retention for this particular company is very, very high, we love our jobs, we're exceptional at it, and it's rare that somebody leaves. There are still new staff coming in every now and again, and these people are not being followed home, as far as I'm aware anyways, at this point. So I don't know what it is.
I've been giving out a website that is your personal website, mindspaodyssey.com. What's that all about?
So it dates back to a couple of years ago when we experienced a financial collapse as part of the globe.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to do what I could for people's well-being. And the premise is very simple, Rob. We build a spa in your mind through storytelling. Fancy that. Guide you through it. We help to build it. And inside of your mind spa, you can have anything you want. So the free download on my website is for the room for relaxation. And within it is at least 5 different ways of relaxing profoundly, immediately, whenever you want to do so, for as long as you want to do so. And it's very simple. And that's just one room. There are as many different rooms in your mind spa as you have an imagination for. And so you can put in one. I'm just getting together the last pieces of music for the Inner Goddess Room, a place for people to give themselves more credit for being more than they think they really are. I'm very much a believer in this idea that we don't live up to our expectations. We live down to them. We're all capable of extraordinary things, and we just don't embrace that as we ought to. There's a whole bunch of other stuff coming out in the next couple of months, but the premise is simple. It's a real nice way of introducing you to a way of exploring your mind and harnessing these other than conscious resources that we all have in a way that works beautifully for you.
We've got about 2 minutes before you and I have to say so long. What are your final thoughts that you'd like to share with the listeners of the X-Zone Nation around the world tonight?
Sure. I'd perhaps like to bring this back to when people ask me often whether or not I'm a believer.
Yeah.
And the answer is this. And I was having a discussion with a guy yesterday about this as well on one of my tours. When people come to me with something weird happening to them and saying, it's a ghost, right? What evidence have you got to support this, right? It's just a feeling, a belief. And yet when people come to me with this idea of, oh, these people are experiencing something because it's all in their mind, there's a perfectly rational explanation, it's scientific, it's because of these things here, they just sound like they're scrabbling for answers, right? There's no weight of evidence behind what they're saying either. What I would love, Rob, is for all these people to show each other a little bit of common courtesy and respect, for us to live in this middle zone where things are not so easily defined, perhaps where fiction becomes reality and reality becomes all the rest of it.
Right.
That we can recognize, that we can appreciate each other's opinions for what they are, their beliefs, and just get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable about it and explore, to engage in a dialogue.
Fred, I want to thank you ever so much for joining us. Please give my very best to the other members of the City of the Dead tours. And
Yes,
who knows, maybe one day we'll come over to Edinburgh, Scotland, say hi to you, take the tour, get scared, and then go out for a few pints afterwards.
That'll be amazing, Rob. I look forward to it.
You take care of yourself. Please don't be a stranger. And once again, thank you very much for sharing your time with us and the stories and the experience of walking and taking a tour in haunted Edinburgh, Scotland. Good night, sir.
Good night.
I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget, check out Fred's City of the Dead tours. The website is www.cityofthedeadtours.com and mindspaodyssey.com. I'm Rob McConnell. I'll be back after this break. Don't go away.
Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Are you or is someone you know struggling with addictions, depression, anxiety, relationships, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, grief, success, and prosperity? Do you know that your subconscious belief plays a big role in the outcome of your hard work? We can help you permanently change the beliefs that may be the reason for your struggles and failures. We care about getting you the return on your investment and the results you are looking for. We can help you be free of the limitations of your past and in realizing your highest potential. We work with people by phone and Skype. For more information, visit us at www.ritasoman.com. That's www.ritasoman.com. Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464.